What's up? What's going on? Guess what time it is? It is time to clean the garage. That's what time it is. And it's also time to talk about 2020 and about these baits right here, because they're kind of cool looking. We'll talk about that in a minute. We just got back from the tournament, and it's a lot warmer here in Florida, obviously, which I'm excited about. But there were some cool things I learned in that event. Number one, I caught a lot of fish on these baits right here, and we're gonna talk about those in more depth. Kind of cool, actually. And something else that I learned at that tournament, which was really cool, was, and I'll talk about that in a minute too. So anyways, a lot to talk about, because this is the 2020 where I break down the previous tournament. Now, let's get up in the boat and talk about it. All right, 2020 video. But first, before we get too deep into it, I want to mention one thing, that this video right here that you're watching is sponsored by Keeps.com, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But thank you very much, Keeps, for sponsoring this video and supporting our channel. All right, there we go, right there. All right, so these little dudes right here is what I did most of my damage on in the tournament, right there. That's a balsa bait, and this is not a balsa bait, but it's quiet. Now, I tried other baits in practice. I tried lots of other baits in practice, and you know, for me, look, here's the deal, guys. Lures are tools, right? It's not like every single lure in this box is gonna catch them every single lake. There's situations, right? And the situation at Fort Loudon was, water was extremely cold, fish were extremely inactive, and they were in those rocks, and a quiet, flat-sided balsa bait like this is key, versus something like the Googan Squad Banger, which I tried in practice, did not catch any fish on this particular bait this tournament, okay? But guess what? We're going to Pickwick in a few weeks, and a bait like this, with all that noise in the grass, right, down the shoreline, that bait is actually most likely gonna outproduce a balsa bait, because the water temperature, Fort Loudon, extremely cold. Pickwick, it's starting to warm up, springtime, they get a little more active. So, you know, I'm gonna dive into this a little bit and also tell you a few more things. But first, let's jump back into our sponsor, right? Keeps.com. These guys are awesome. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. All right, so here's the deal, guys. Did you know 2 out of 3 men are gonna experience some type of male pattern baldness before they're the age of 35? That's right. So look, while you still have hair, you should try to do something about it. That's what I'm doing, because I have to protect the lusciousness, right? I wear a baseball cap all the time. You see me on film, so I have to protect it. So that's why I use Keeps, because it helps me keep my locks. It helps me keep my lusciousness, which is very, very important. And here's the deal, guys, look, I'm just gonna get real with you. You don't have to go broke trying to avoid going bald, okay? You know, Keeps, they offer the generic versions, the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. And some of you may have tried them before, but never, ever at this price, ever. So Keeps has basically revolutionized the way men are treated for hair loss. They make it easy, and they deliver medication to your house every 3 months. So you can say goodbye, sayonara, to all of those long lines at the pharmacy and those doctor visits. So prevention is key. These treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months or more to see results, so it's important to act fast. So here's the deal, guys. Here's what I want you to do. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Scott Martin, and you are going to save 50% off on your first order. So do me a favor, check it out, check out the link, smash the link, and look, you probably know someone, right? You probably know someone that could use Keeps, and so share this, right? Share it with them, because they're gonna save 50% on their first order. So that's awesome, and thank you very much, Keeps, for sponsoring this video again, and that's it, guys. So now we gotta get right back to the video at hand, which is the 2020 balsa baits. So guys, here are the 2 baits that caught the bulk of my fish. This is a little tiny, I want to say it's made by Old School Lures, which pretty cool deal. That is a Wesley Strader crankbait. So Wesley Strader, you're welcome, okay? Because I'm sure a bunch of people are gonna be wanting to buy that little bait right there. So save me a few, guys, or Old School Lures, save me a few, because I do need a couple more. And then I was throwing this one here as well. This was a deeper diving balsa flat side, same exact one. I don't know the color. I don't know the color on that, but it was kind of cool. You know, and here's the thing, like everyone went to red, like everyone was throwing red, and they were biting red, obviously. But you know, they were biting the natural shed colors really just as good, maybe even better. You know, because I think, you know, there's a balance, right? It's like one of those things where everyone is throwing red, like everyone's throwing red. So if you throw something a little different, that may create a reaction out of those fish because they've seen red for weeks and weeks and weeks, day in and day out, red crankbait. Like you can't even find a red crankbait at the stores because everybody's bought them. So I switched over to that and it worked out really well. My setup is pretty simple on all my crankbaits. This is a favorite 6-stick. This is a 7-foot 2-inch medium heavy. It's a great rod for cranking like this. It's a soft tip. It's a really accurate rod. It's lightweight and balanced. It's a great rod. It did its job very well. Now my line size was basically 12-pound P-line tactical. Very important to have a very good line when you're digging over the top of those rocks like I was grinding, getting hung up as many times as I did. You need to have a very good line that's very abrasion resistance. And that P-line tactical, it's just awesome. I'm just telling you guys, it's awesome. The other reason I went to the balsa, you know, A, it's quiet, but B, it floats really well, right? And so I was throwing these baits around a lot of rock. I was targeting on small little rock piles that were detached from the bank slightly, and I would see them on the Garmin Panoptix live scope. I'd see the little piles of rocks, the little vein of rocks that stuck out off the bank, and I would rub this crankbait all over those rocks in different positions. And I literally power pull. It's one of the few times actually that I've ever like power pulled down, which was cool. Power pull down, 5-6 foot of water, 4 or 5 foot of water, and then take the Panoptix and look around and find like one little individual rock, right? Or a little vein of rocks. And I would just keep casting that crankbait all through those rocks and just slowly cranking it through those rocks. And that was the key, slowly cranking it through the rocks. If I'd have burned that crankbait really fast through there, it deflects so hard that it gets off center and it skips out of the strike zone pretty far. So I was rolling it through there, reeling it through there, and when I'd get to the rocks, I would literally pull the crankbait. You look at some of this footage right now. In my mind, it's like I know there's a fish there, and I just gotta keep casting. I know they'll bite it if they see it. Like there's another fish right here, 100%. Okay, so you notice how I'm pulling the crankbait over the rocks and then I'd reel up the slack and then pull it again? That was key for me. And the other reason I used the balsa is that when you did get hung up, which I got hung up a lot, matter of fact, they kept going to me on live, and every time hey, we're going to you live, I'd get hung up. I was like, dude, y'all doing that on purpose? Like every time I get hung up, y'all keep coming to me live. So that was kind of ridiculous, but the balsa have such a high buoyancy that you can sit there and pop your line, shake it, pop your line, and a lot of times it'll come off that rock or come off what you're hung up on. So that balsa has those benefits there. And that was really the two baits that got me there. I did catch one key fish on a red square bill. It wasn't this particular one here, this little fritz side. I never did actually catch many fish on this fritz side, at least none that I weighed in. But I did catch one on a little red square bill that was kind of cool. I caught a nice 4-pounder. Matter of fact, that was kind of a crazy deal because I'm running down the lake and I'm rolling this pocket and I'm looking for laydowns, and there's like 5 laydowns in a row down this one side of the shoreline. And I roll in there, and the first tree I come to, I throw up there, boom, I catch this 4-pounder. I'm like excited, I'm putting them in the live well. I hear a boat stopping, it's Canterbury. Canterbury's like, hey man, you got him? I'm like, yeah, I just caught a 4-pounder. He's like, I'm stuck on 4. I said, I just caught a 4 off this tree. He goes, man, I fished this pocket this morning, didn't catch anything. I said, dude, they're biting right now. I just caught a nice one. I said, I gotta go, man, just go in there. So he trolling motors like right in front of me, throws up on the next tree and catches a nice 4-pounder. Matter of fact, here, take a look, this is pretty cool. We done caught one. We done caught a big one. Holy cow.
Hey.
Come on. Oh, he's got a big one. He's got a big one on.
Freaking big one, dude.
He's got a big one. Scott Kimber's got a big one. He's got a big one. Get him. Yeah, boy. Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
Face number 5.
Yeah, so that was cool. That was kind of a defining moment for me. That put me right up into 5th place going into the last day, or the semifinal day, which was cool. So it was my first Bassmaster Elite cut. You know, a couple of things that stood out for me there at that tournament. One, I felt very comfortable. I didn't feel nervous. You know, I felt right at home with all the guys. It's been a lot of fun on the Elite this year hanging out with all my buddies and meeting a lot of new fishermen out there. A lot of hammers, man, a lot of hammers for sure. So I'm having a ball, so glad that I'm over there. But you know, hey, we've got Pickwick coming up. I need to really buckle down and try to make something really special there. I do like Pickwick. I've just never been there this time of the year, like in March. So we'll see what happens on that, but it should be a lot of fun. Now, getting back to a couple other things that I learned at Fort Loudon. Here's the one thing that was kind of like, that's why I do these videos, right? It's that hindsight 2020. And for me, this was interesting, right? So on every day that I rode up and down the lake, as I rode up and down the lake, I peeked into pockets. A lot of times I'd even run in the mouth of them and swing out. And I wanted to see where laydowns were. I was trying to find certain pockets that were not too steep, but not too shallow. Kind of this, I was looking for this, hard to describe, but this like certain depth. I wanted that tree laying in like 2 to 4 feet on the end. And so you had to find the right little spot. So I would do that. I would run up and down on the river as I ran to my different places throughout the tournament, and I would waypoint on my Garmin certain creeks that I thought looked good. Small creeks, little short creeks. And on day 3, my plan was, and this is where I messed up, my plan on day 3 was to go hit a couple of my traditional places that I've been fishing, and then pretty much at about noon, just start rolling with it, right? Just start rolling down the lake and rolling into some of these pockets that I marked as I fished the tournament. And in my mind, I thought, I'll roll in there, and there's a couple lay down trees, I'll catch a nice fish off this one, I'll go to the next pocket, catch in my mind, I was visualizing me like just having this banner day while I'm rolling in there like boom, 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 another 3-pounder, 4-pounder, just like mega bag, right? That could have very well happened, and actually what I was doing and the way that I was preparing for that is a very real thing. The problem was, and this is what I learned, early in the spring, right? Water temperatures were in the low 40s, like 41, 42 in practice. It started warming up throughout the tournament where the water temperature in the creek started getting, 50, 51, 52 degrees. Then we had another little cold snap throughout the tournament that kind of put it back down a little bit. My point to this is early spring, don't look for every creek to have the same amount of fish in them, because these fish are migrating at that moment to those shallower pockets. So they don't all pull up in the same pockets all throughout the lake at the same time. It's more like a section of the lake, or, here's my opinion, a bigger creek, right? I had a couple creeks that had water temperature. I had a couple creeks that had some fish in it. I should have just never left those particular creeks early in the spring like that, where the water temperature's first rising up. Those fish don't rise up all throughout the whole lake at the same time. Now, a few weeks later, right, and a couple weeks from now, water temperatures stabilize a lot better. Then that pattern where you can kind of run it all over the lake and fish new water every day and kind of catch roughly the same amount of fish will happen. But early, not so much. So I learned that lesson, which is, it stinks. I should have just stayed in those 2 creeks and just milked it out and made something happen. And that's really the biggest thing that I learned there, and that I wanted to pass on to you guys. So, a couple things again, the balsa crankbaits were key. Number 2, kind of understanding what the water temperature is doing in the lake and the progression that water temperatures had over the course of the last few days and beyond. So that was really it. Early in the year, very sensitive, right? Those lakes are very sensitive. And that was a lot of fun. So huge congrats to Gussie. Dominated in first-class fashion right there. I mean, he figured out something. And it was funny. I said that in practice, like the first day. I said, look, I either need to go do what everybody's doing, which is throwing little crankbaits at the bank, or I need to go find something special, something that'll set me apart, like with the smallmouth. I attempted it, obviously did not even get close to figuring it out. So congratulations to Jeff, man, awesome win. I know this is going to be one of many tournaments you're going to win on the Bassmaster Elite, so good job on that. And that's it, guys, really. I mean, it was a pretty simple tournament, right? It really just boiled down to making the right decisions and throwing the right baits for me. And because practice was tough, practice was tough. And the last little tip I'll give you, and this kind of worked in my favor too, practice was so tough that I said to myself, I'm gonna go in my starting spot, for example, when I run that bridge, and I said, I'm gonna catch 3 keepers in this creek. I'm not gonna leave until I catch 3 keepers. Well, I caught one, and then a little while later, I caught another one, and then I caught a short a little while later. And so there was a little progression of bites, right, starting to happen. And so in my mind, I was like, you know what? I can make this happen. And I did, I caught 3 in my first spot. And that, believe it or not, even only 3 fish, took the pressure off of me, knowing that the rest of the day, I've only got to put 2 more keepers in the boat. And so that was my approach throughout the tournament, is really milk the areas. Again, power pole down, keep making repeated casts to those rock veins, different angles, different positions, and fish smart, and fish with confidence. So that was it, guys. So thank you so much for all of the support on those videos. Those videos have done amazing, and so many of you are liking the format that we have right now going on, and the length of the videos and all that good stuff. So we're gonna keep it going. Thank you for all the support, guys, and do me a huge solid. Let's smash that subscribe button, right? If you just check, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and number 2, click on subscribe and make sure you get all notifications so you'll get to watch all of our videos. We got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe. So thank you very much. Love you so much. And Pickwick is coming up next, guys. We'll see you. Boom!